back, everybody, to Not Qualified. Today, we're going to be talking about my favorite movie. Last week, we talked about your favorite movie, Almost Famous. Great movie.
Yeah, last
week.
Yeah.
Where we just happened to wear the same outfit.
Yep.
2 weeks in a row. Great movie.
Weird how that worked out.
Weird. Directed by Cameron Crowe. Awesome movie. My favorite movie is Spider-Man. Directed by Sam Raimi, featuring Tobey Maguire. This movie rocks.
Dude, we're going to talk so long about this movie.
I know.
We're going to set the record straight.
Yep. I could go on and on about this movie. This movie's so freaking good. Everything about it. The trilogy is great. The first movie I think is the best. Obviously, it's my number one. Yeah, I'll let you talk a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so we both grew up with this movie. I don't remember not knowing this movie.
Yeah.
One of the first memories I have of going to the movie theater in my life was to see Spider-Man 2 in theaters. And I already loved the first one so much that when we went to see Spider-Man 2 in theaters, I dressed up in a full Spider-Man costume and was jumping off the walls.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing ever. I was, 6 or 7?
Yeah.
I must have been 6 when Spider-Man 2 came out. And boy, I just remember that being the most exciting theater experience ever to this day. But I've watched these movies a lot of times. I've seen them over the years as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
And I, to this day, strongly think they're the best superhero movies ever made.
I agree.
Especially the first one. And that's what we're talking about today is 2002, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yes.
The first one. I do think it's the best superhero movie of all time. It's one of my top 5 movies of all time, period. Falls right below Return of the King on my top 10 list. It is just a masterpiece. It is perfect. It's one of the few perfect movies. And we'll get into why a little bit more. So, yeah.
And I didn't grow up watching Sam Raimi's other movies. You did. You had watched the Army of Darkness trilogy, other Bruce Campbell movies, like Bubba Hotep, stuff like that. So Sam Raimi definitely has that B movie king quality to his movies. Except now he has his hands on a movie franchise. And a $1 million superhero, big budget movie studio franchise at that. So he brings that B-movie campiness with $1 million finesse.
And the reason that was such a good call on Sony's part is that they took a guy who knows really well how to get the most out of a budget. Like Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead movies were made on a shoestring, nothing budget, and they have some awesome effects, some really cool shots. He knows how to do the most with a whole lot less. He's great at that, and they take that guy and they give him $100 million or however much the budget was to make a blockbuster movie. And I mean, he delivers. He doesn't. What you see a lot of the time, especially now, is you take a director who's never had a lot of money and you give them a lot of money, and what they'll do is blow all the money by making CGI fest, and they'll just spend money on computer generated effects, and that is not what Sam Raimi did. I mean, this movie is full. I mean, it has some CGI in there that adds to it, but it is full of practical effects. It's full of cool, like the same techniques he would have used had this been a $10,000 movie instead of a $100 million movie. So,
like you said, one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. The greatest superhero movie of all time. Greatest trilogy. My favorite superhero movie. My favorite movie of all time. I think this movie pulls off that comic book movie feel more than any other comic book movie since or before.
I mean, it's the quintessential.
We have talked about this before. Every frame looks like it was something that they took from a comic book and put onto the big screen. And that's not something any other comic book movie that I've ever seen has been able to replicate. So,
and this is where we get into the anytime anyone Spider-Man is my favorite superhero ever, and anytime someone talks about Spider-Man on YouTube or on a podcast or whatever, you get a bunch of really, really stupid comments from people arguing about which Spider-Man is the best. And so just real quick, that's probably the dumbest argument just ever. But especially because you have a bunch of 12-year-olds saying that Tom Holland is the best because he's the youngest. That's what I always see. I see I saw on Twitter just last week they tweeted the awesome fight scene in the lockers.
Yeah.
In the hallway between Flash and
Peter.
And they were like, this is really good to y'all. They all look 30. It's first of all, that's stupid for a lot of reasons, but one being that they're actors, so they're pretending to be people they're not. Two, the age of an actor doesn't at all affect the quality of the film as a whole.
Yeah.
And three, all the actors do a great job. Yeah. They're great in this movie. And even if they weren't, so I love every Spider-Man movie, for the record. Yeah. I even love the Amazing Spider-Man. I love the MCU Spider-Mans, but they're not these. Yeah. Like you said, this movie feels straight off the pages of a comic book. It is heavily inspired by those Silver Age comics, the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko Spider-Man comics, which I've read, and it is amazing how much Sam Raimi pulls directly from those pages. So when people say that Tom Holland is the most comic accurate because he's young, I laugh. It's just dumb.
And I think it's kind of unfair to this movie when people say something like that. And I'm not saying I don't like the Garfield movies. I'm not saying I don't like Homecoming and Far From Home and the MCU Spider-Man that Holland does. The best Spider-Man representation that I think we've ever seen on any kind of screen are both animated. I think Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man PS4 are the two best Spider-Man
for sure
that have ever been put into the world in mass market media.
Yeah.
However, when we're talking about just live action films, I do think Maguire and Sam Raimi pull it off the best as far as being a comic book movie. It wasn't until recently that comic books decided to take the turn into gritty, realistic type. About the same time as the movies, because they wanted to share it. They wanted to have it to be parallel with each other. You go back and you read stuff like Captain America and Thor, and theyese are kind of dorky characters. You don't like these characters because they're cool.
Yeah, you like them because they're endearing.
They're endearing, for real. And Spider-Man is the most endearing.
Yeah, he's the everyman.
He's the everyman.
He can't pay rent.
Yeah, he gets bullied by everyone. Life craps on him. And if we're gonna be real, of course, everybody looks 30. Bro, have you ever read a comic book? All the bullies look like they're roided.
Also, that is literally what high schoolers looked like in 2002.
Oh,
you look at high school yearbook pictures from 2002. Everyone looked like they're 37.
Yeah, and the spiked gelled
terrible haircuts. Yeah. So
if we want to talk about old people in our high school, I had a guy. Whenever I was graduating, there was a guy that was 2 years under me, sophomore, and he had a full beard. He could have purchased alcohol for everybody. Yeah. Nobody was questioning this guy's age.
Yeah.
And that was one of many. People just kind of look old all the time.
Yeah. It's funny. Another criticism I hear from people when they're talking about when they're arguing in a dumb way over which Spider-Man is the best.
Yeah.
One thing is that in the comics he didn't have organic web shooters. He made that's true. It doesn't affect the story in any way, and it doesn't affect the character in any way. The only reason that they did that was to save exposition time, and it works fine.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
I think it's a change that serves the story well.
And also, when people go into stuff like that, they're talking about very superficial issues.
Yeah.
They are not talking about the heart of what it is, which is a film.
Yeah.
And when you argue about who's a better actor, Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire, I don't care what the answer is. I care about which is a better movie. Yeah. And this is by far the best film that Spider-Man has ever appeared in as a character. So
I agree.
Yeah.
And a lot of those issues, people, like you said, they're superficial issues that they have problems with. this is a character. You're worried about the character, what he does, who he is, what he represents, which is unchanged at all.
Yeah,
right. You're anytime you take something and you adapt it to film or TV or to a video game, you're going to take liberties with specific storytelling aspects, specific details about their lives. Right. I'm sure the Green Goblin was way different. Origin. Okay, I gotta be real, man. I remember watching like the animated Spider-Man series.
Yeah.
Right, and the Green Goblin looks real dumb.
Yeah,
looks so
with
stupid.
The orange hat,
and he throws pumpkins.
Yeah,
well, that's stupid as hell. Are you joking? We're gonna be real. Oh, they had these organic web shooters. He's not throwing pumpkins.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, if we want to be real, then every Batman movie would have Batman with an actual notepad as a detective, tracking down criminals with the cops.
Like a tweet ad.
Yeah.
I don't know. There were changes to the story that served the story well with what he was trying to go for.
Yeah.
None of the characters changed who they were intrinsically.
Right.
As characters coming from the comics.
Yeah.
They're still those same characters, the same kind of motives that they would have had.
And the themes, man, something this movie does so well, and the whole trilogy does so well, is hit hard on the themes that are core to the character.
Yeah.
Of responsibility and duty and heroism and all that stuff. But we'll talk more about that, I think, if we talk about Spider-Man 2 sometime.
Yeah.
Because that movie hammers Peter Parker into the ground.
Oh, for sure.
And the whole point of that movie is choosing to do the right thing even when it's hard and all that. Yeah. But this movie has the same the same heart, and that's where its strength is it attacks the themes, and it does so like it's upfront about it. You know what I mean? Like you know what you're gonna get, and it delivers really well. Also, can we talk for a second about the fact that there's a Nickelback song over the credits?
Yeah, Hero. It's a really good song. One of the only Nickelback song I like, and it's only because of the movie and the childhood attachment to it. Because you'd watch the movie, you'd play it VCR. It was because of VHS copy. Put it into the VCR. And you get to the end of the movie, they have a whole music video where Nickelback singing on a rooftop.
Nice,
good stuff.
Yeah,
great stuff. And all right, we're talking about storytelling aspects about it. I want to get into like you're just touched on the actors, right? The actors murdered it, right? There's not a moment where all of the actors aren't going 100%.
Dude, Willem Dafoe went ham in this movie.
It makes the movie,
right? For real.
Maguire plays an excellent Peter, right? But if we didn't have Green Goblin to be the antithesis of him, like it wouldn't be what it is. Mm-hmm. And he plays two characters in this movie,
and he does it so well.
He does it so well, and that mixed with Raimi's filmmaking style and the storytelling is perfect.
Yeah. Man, Raimi's filmmaking style is one of the things that is so effective about this movie. I've seen this movie probably 200 times, and still the scene at Thanksgiving dinner where they go up to Peter's room. And he's on the ceiling, and he's got his arm cut, and Norman Osborn is looking for him, and then they're about to leave, and the blood drops, and Norman hears the blood drop. The tension of that scene still makes me nervous, even after I've seen this movie 100 times. One thing I've heard people say, Kirsten Dunst is like kind of a wooden actress, like she does not very expressive. Maybe in some things. I don't think she's that in this. I think she's perfect for Mary Jane.
Yeah. And I think, and as much as I love this trilogy, right, I obviously don't love the second two as much as I love the first one. I think the second two do diminish in quality. That's just because of my love of the first one and how perfect of a movie I think that is. And I could see that. I
know that most people say Spider-Man 2 is the best one.
Yeah.
And for me, it's pretty close.
And I respect that opinion completely.
It's pretty close, honestly, for me. I go back and forth, but I think the neatness of the first one, as far as just a story and the arc,
there's a neatness, there's a cohesive.
It is insular. I mean, you can take it on its own, and it's perfect. You don't need anything else. So,
And I could see the critiques about the kind of characters, especially once you get into the second and third movie, because there are some really hammy lines.
Man, especially in the third one.
Yeah. I still like him. That doesn't change how much I like him.
Yeah. There's that one line in Spider-Man 2 that's the hammiest freaking thing ever.
I
that
have
James
nothing
Franco
left
says.
except Spider-Man.
It gets me every time. It's so funny.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this movie. It's fantastic. It's one of the only movies I quote.
We both quote it on a daily basis.
Yeah. So it's great stuff.
We're not so different, you and I. The one where you can quote a grunt and I will know what it's from.
Yeah, you have to do the squat though, like you're riding on the glider.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, they're great. Like,
just an incredible experience. And I really like the movie. Obviously, we're talking about it, but this is it was right at the beginning of this upswing of superhero movies, right before.
And this movie is why.
And this movie is why we had the only movies we really had before this was like a Captain America movie with J.D. Salinger's son.
I've never seen that.
It sucked.
The only good ones we had were the Richard Donner Superman movies.
Yes.
And then the first X-Men movie, right?
That was right around the same time.
Yeah.
We had Howard the Duck, which was the first Marvel movie. It was the first Marvel movie.
It wasn't a superhero movie.
It was the first Marvel movie, so that sucked a lot, except for Tim Robbins.
And then, of course, we had the Tim Burton Batman.
The Tim Burton Batman, great stuff. But then, as soon as this happens, you get the X-Men trilogy, you get Daredevil.
Catwoman.
Critique it as you may. Catwoman, great stuff.
No.
And so this is kind of that upswing, and as each of these trilogies continue to ramp up, you get reboots, you get rebrandings, you get the MCU, and you get the monster that is now. The mouse owns everything.
We'll talk about the MCU and all of our thoughts there on another episode.
Yeah.
But and then go into specific movies as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man.
I think that's all I have to say on the movie. I mean, I could talk more about it.
I mean, we could probably talk forever about specific things. As soon as we get into really specific scenes and things we love about Spider-Man, it's going to go forever. But final thoughts. If somehow you've never seen the original Spider-Man, go watch it.
Good stuff.
Go watch it as a movie on its own. Don't expect it to fit into some larger cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Pretend it's 2002 and you're just going to see a cool movie. It will deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So completely your ranking is, of course,
1.
Yeah, it's your number 1.
My favorite.
It's a 2 for me. Easy. It's an easy number 2.
Great movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So any movie in my top 10 is going to be number 2.
Yeah.
So easy for me.
Yeah.
Any last things to say?
Great movie. Good stuff. Go Nickelback. Hey, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this awesome shirt that I'm holding up. Check that out. Go to zeffoster.com/podcast and buy some merch. Because if you do, you will instantly be 3,000 times cooler. It's always hard to end these because I try to say goodbye and I choke. And you try to walk away. But I stumble. You stumble.